snakes, according to Transformers Rescue Bots. Hi, if you've watched Rescue Bots, you may have seen the snake episode. If you know anything about snakes, like I do, then you've probably groaned in pain watching this episode, much like we did.
Item inaccuracy!
So we're going to share what they got wrong. When the snake shows up, it's a mix-up, and they end up in an electronics lab. Why? Because they were placed in a wooden box that looked the same as the ones going to the lab. How else would Jerry mix them up? The boxes don't even have holes to allow them to breathe. So first off, they should have been dead. Secondly, the way the zookeepers were acting, they expected them to be roaming freely in the boxes, which is not how you're supposed to be transported. Snakes are supposed to be in tight, clear containers with tiny air holes so they don't die or escape. Plus, they only opened one box. Those are completely different species of different sizes. They have to be separated for the other's safety. The rattlesnake and sea snake would end up squished by the green anaconda. Both Indian cobra speckles would eat the squished snakes and bite the green anaconda in self-defense whenever the box gets shaken, and that's about 5 out of the 12 that escaped. So this whole thing just started out bad.
I found out where the snakes came from. The zookeeper is missing a shipment of 12 large and possibly venomous reptiles.
That leaves 10 more to catch.
Now to how they're portrayed. The first one to cause problems is the first younger green anaconda. It's about 10 to 20 feet long and sitting on the scaffolding. It hears Cade and purposely pops his head down to scare him, threatening him with a hiss. When Cade tries to save the man, it starts coming down the rope that's keeping the man attached. Once the man's safe, it slips into the open window below. The first thing wrong, green anacondas are pretty docile. On the scaffolding, 1, it wouldn't even have noticed Cade till he removed the man hanging, since snakes have bad hearing, and 2, unless Cade directly tried to mess with it, it wouldn't have bothered to care. It also hissed at him, which snakes only do when angry or scared, of which this one had no reason other than drama. Plus, that metal slab is nice and warm. It wasn't going to care anyway. The only reason it would have popped its head over the edge is if it was curious, which would have been a couple of head bobs and tongue flicking, and then gone back onto the warm slab, ignoring them, especially since the scaffolding doesn't shake or swing. The rope climbing. Yes, it coming down the rope is something it would have done, but they played it off like it was going to do harm. If it's moving that slow, it only wants to move to the window to get space or get to the ground, is curious about the man, or wants to lay on something that won't burn its sensitive hide, like said man. The only way it got on there was if it slithered into the building and saw the warm platform and slid through the open window, freaking out the window washer. The fact that it only scared the window washer is a mystery. So not that many people working in that building. The second to cause problems is the rattlesnake. Heatwave sees it sitting 10 feet away while Cade and Danny are bickering. It doesn't rattle its tail or threaten them until the Burtons look. When they try to back away, the buddy cuffs pull them together and the snake tries coming closer. Heatwave catches it and holds it up in the air, it hissing, rattling, and trying to escape his fingers. When the third snake passes by being its own problem, Heatwave covers Cade and Danny while still having the snake in his hand before it before they stick it in a heavy-duty cloth bag, tying it shut with a rope. Problem here. 1. Rattlesnakes like to hide, meaning it's sitting in the middle of the road is something it wouldn't have done naturally, unless it was trying to warm up, but they only do that if the road is undisturbed for several hours and it's the cool of the day. Which wasn't this case, as the road is in a work street where cars come through regularly, and it's the middle of the day when the asphalt is too hot. It would have been trying to hide under a lamppost or something. Plus, they only rattle their tails if they're within striking distance. Danny and Cade were not close enough for it to even consider them a threat. 2, it was far enough away that it would have slithered away before Heatwave even noticed it. There was too much movement and it had plenty of space to leave. 3, it wouldn't have charged them because they were too far away. They're ambush predators. They wait for you to come into their space. Unless it was trying to chase them off, but they only do that if you're blocking the only exit and they're low on venom. And last, it's angry and inches from Cade's face when Heatwave tries to protect them from the hover scooter. He's not only going to get bitten multiple times, but he's going to suffer a painful death, even if he gets anti-venom. How's that for a kid's show? The first Indian cobra. It's in the basket of the Indian guy's hover scooter, threatening him the whole time he's driving, flicking its tongue at him. It even strikes at him a few times, missing as he dodges. Cade jumps onto the scooter and catches it in the bag before it can strike at him. The problem here, considering it was in the basket, it was just trying to nap, the scooter movement waking it up. Because it's full grown and at close range, striking him would have been really easy. This one just wants him to stop and get out of its space so it can sleep. The tongue flicking is it trying to figure out what's going on. This one was honestly the most accurate. Cade honestly had no idea it was venomous till Cody mentioned it. I mean, it's always better to just assume that the snake is venomous. They'll prove it otherwise. The second older green anaconda. It appears out of nowhere and tries to strangle Chase. Blades comes along and pulls it off, allowing Chase to transform and break free. It then climbs up a rope, and Blades loses it on a pine tree. Then it goes looking and bumps into the hikers. Frankie calls it a boa, which is a smaller breed of snake. It threatens them with hissing and standing tall and stops when they pile up behind some wild garlic. It leaves. They turn to the hikers and get their cuffs removed. It eats the one that's linked with Cody's with no hesitation, and it drags the two together. They use this to get the snake in the tank they brought. Once it's all over, it just hisses at Cody because he gets too close. Given Chase's speed and momentum, it wouldn't have been able to get a grip. Vehicles that they do try to strangle are either slow or stationary, them using it as a heater. Chase was moving too quickly for it, and it had a high chance of rolling over it or shaking it off. It wouldn't bother trying to attack him unless it would have been in too much, because it would have been in too much pain. As it clearly dropped, it likely fell off a lamppost or signal lights. This is normal behavior for this breed since they live around a lot of trees. Everything from the climbing, posturing, and hissing was accurate. Everything else was wrong.
This is wild garlic. Some people say it repels snakes.
Wild garlic does have a strong scent, which could chase the snake away, but only because it smells bad. Hence to why when a snake gets used to the smell, it stops working. Anacondas don't live near garlic, wild or otherwise, so it would just confuse it. The pine tree would have been more problematic, as pine oil irritates a snake's skin and stays there for days. Most snakes just lightly brush against the trunk. This big guy was practically rolling in oil, so this snake would have been in a bad mood or desperate for relief, not hungry. When it raised itself up and hissed, that was it telling them to go away. Even if it was hungry, those kids are too large a meal. Given there were more than 2 people, it would have fled instead. And the bracelet landed in front of it. It ate it, which is really dumb writing, as it would have sniffed it first and realized it wasn't food and wandered away. What if its mind wasn't preoccupied? That's if its mind wasn't preoccupied with the nasty, itchy oil. Snakes aren't that stupid.
No, spit it out. That is not food. That is not food. I just fed you yesterday. You shouldn't be hungry. Give me that. That is your poop. That's not food.
Given the fact that it chose to go towards a whole group of humans indicates that it's familiar with captivity. Most snakes in captivity will usually go towards humans and calm down if there's glass between them and a threat. More likely than not, it would have been curled up in the corner, curiously flicking its tongue or rubbing on the glass trying to remove the itchy pine oil. And the thing about big snakes, once they're larger than most of their natural predators, they start not caring about threats because they are the biggest threat around. So it was just an itchy pool noodle throwing a tantrum. The sea snake, the most venomous one here. This one gets fished out of the town pool by Cade and Danny. This one is the worst example, as it wouldn't even have gotten out of the box. They suck at slithering as they don't have the scales to properly grip the ground. Even if it could, it would have gone straight to the ocean, as that's its safe place. The pool has too much chlorine, which would quickly kill a sea snake since they partly breathe through their skin. It would have been trapped with no protection, no food, and swimming in poison. It would die after a few hours. Plus, the burns would have had a hard time trying to fish it out because it would have tried hiding in the drain or gone to the bottom of the deep end. They are very shy snakes that you have to be gentle with, and there is no cure for their venom.
You were the one who was too scared to get in the water with that thing.
He wave climbing in the pool and scooping it up with the cloth bag would guarantee 0 bites and an easy catch. The second cobra. This one, Cody says, is a king cobra, but it's actually an Indian cobra. The hood's too big, it's not black, and there's no symbol on the head, and it looks just like the other cobra, likely part of a breeding pair.
This is an Indian or spectacled cobra, and they get that name from those 2 black dots on the back of their hood. So I'm very carefully pinning the cobra now, careful not to hurt him or get myself bit. This species is very neurotoxic, and a bite from him would definitely ruin my day and maybe the rest of my life.
King cobras are likely the only ones Cody's familiar with, hence the confusion. The cobra pops out of the bush, hisses and postures, blinks at Graham. Graham stays as still as possible to keep it from striking. Ms. Niederlander then pulls an instrument out of thin air and comes to her calmly, following the music. Then Boulder traps it under his foot and picks it up. 1. Snakes can't blink. No eyelids is the biggest sign of it's a snake. Snakes have inner ears that connect to their jaws, giving them the ability to hear anything from 50 hertz to 1,000, but only low sounds. Recorders are too high-pitched for them to pick up, so her playing the recorder doesn't work unless she was walked up to the snake and swayed while playing. Cobras respond to the rocking motion. But one wrong move and she and Graham will end up dead. Graham honestly did the right thing when it popped up. Holding still allows time for the angry snake to calm down enough for you to back away slowly. Once you're away, you grab a long stick and try to press its head down to grab it. Do not try this if you are not trained to handle venomous snakes. Cobras are mildly easy to catch as they don't like leaving a spot they've claimed, hence to why the first one didn't want to leave the basket. 2. Boulder's foot is useless. Look at the shape of it. This is enough that's large enough for a man to crawl through. Why is it dangling after he picks it up? It should be wrapping around his arm or trying to get away. What were the zookeepers doing this whole episode? We know from the beginning that they were prepared to handle them. Besides the improper shipping method and opening the crates from outside the zoo instead of inside the reptile house, they also use catch poles, which can kill the snakes if they work at all. They loop around the head, and you tighten the loop until the animal can't move. That's why you use it on anything with a thick neck. You'd have to literally choke it out and break the snake's spine to keep it from wiggling out. The anaconda is the only one this would have worked on. You're supposed to use snake hooks and tongs, anything that allows you to keep its head as far from you as possible while allowing you to pick up its body. The other guy was going to use his hands. If they were stored properly, this makes sense. But they weren't, and some of them are highly venomous. So what were they doing the rest of the episode? More than likely catching all the ones we didn't see and killing or losing them because they're using the wrong tools. There are now a half dozen loose snakes on the island. Honestly, the only thing accurate about this entire episode is the reactions of the townspeople. All bad choices and lots of fleeing. And that's what we got. Bye! Comment, like, and subscribe. Don't be rude or mean. Bye!